right? When you learn how to communicate your value, you'll be a lot more confident when you actually do communicate your value, because you've practiced it, you've thought about it, you've learned how to do it. And so you'll be a lot more confident in doing it. And so there's 3 different types of ways to communicate your value to a man. The first one is through standards. And standards are communicating things like, one, your preferences, things that you like and things that you don't like. That's setting a standard. Another way to set standards is to talk about things that you think are attractive. So if you're talking to a guy and you're like, yeah, I really think it's attractive when guys, act like gentlemen and open doors for me and, pull out my chair and, make me feel protected and loved and cared for, or whatever it is that you're looking for a guy to do, just communicating what your standard is, saying what you think is attractive. Or if he's doing it, for instance, let's say he opens a door for you and you say, wow, that was really attractive. I really like that. Right. And just communicating that you think that something that he's doing is attractive, and that's actually setting a standard. Right. And he's going to hear that. He's going to hear you say something like that to him. And then he's going to want to do it again and again and again and again, because he's thinking, okay, I'm winning with her. Right. Which is what men want to do. They want to make you happy and they want to win with you. And if he feels like he can do that with you and you're leading him to doing things that make him win and that make you happy, then he's going to want to continue to do those things. He's going to feel like he's winning with you. He's going to want to go on more dates with you because he thinks he's having a great time. He's connecting with you. He likes you. The second way to communicate your value is to communicate your boundaries. And we've talked a lot about boundaries in other videos. For a real quick recap of it, the way that you communicate boundaries is, let's say that he's pushing your boundaries, which is something that guys do all the time, and they're going to do all the time because that's kind of one of their jobs, is to see where the boundaries lie with you. And so what he might end up doing is, let's say that he tries to do something with you that you aren't really ready for yet. For instance, instead of just outright rejecting him, which is what a lot of women do, and they're like, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not interested, which can a lot of times make a guy think that you're actually rejecting him, right? There's 2 types of rejections. One's a hard rejection, the other one's a soft rejection. A hard rejection is when you are like, no, I'm not interested, I don't want to do that. A soft rejection is like, not yet. You're interested, but not yet. Right. I'm not, it's kind of a thought process of communicating. Like, if you play your cards right, maybe at some point I'll be interested in that. And so you want to lead him on. If you're using a boundary, what you do is you tell him what it is that you want, right? Like, I love, or tell him the things that you like about him or something like that, right? So it's either telling him what you want or telling things that you like about him. So you might say, I'd love to do that in the future. That's telling him what you want. If you're telling him things that you like about him, you might say, I really love hanging out and talking to you and communicating with you. And then you say your boundaries. So you say, maybe, so let's say you're doing it from the beginning. So you say, maybe I'd like to do that. That sounds like it'd be really fun sometime in the future. However, I'm not quite ready for that right now. I'd rather we get to know each other a little bit better first. Does that sound all right? And so the third part of the boundary is asking a question and making sure that he agrees to it, because then if he agrees to it, then he's caught into doing that, right? He's set up in a position where he needs to do that. And if he doesn't do that, then he actually, then that he's intentionally breaking your boundaries. And you can go on to number 3, which is the third way of communicating your boundaries, which is walking away. And so when you walk away, it's not necessarily forever, right? You can walk away from a situation, but still be interested if he's willing to put in the energy and the effort in order to win you back. But if he's not willing to put in the energy and the effort in order to win you back, then you might be in a space where you're like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. And so you walk away. So let's say that he does something, right, that you really don't like. And so walking away is usually for a situation that you really don't like. So let's say that, he flirts with another girl, right? You guys are out and he flirts with another girl, or he says something, or he does something that's a little bit over the line, right? Just a little bit over the line. I mean, if you know, it's like really intentional, like he walks away from you and starts flirting with a girl on the other side of the room, that might be a problem. But if a waitress comes over and he just says, you know, something cute and flirty or whatever, and you're not really comfortable with that, you know, you could, you know, end up walking away from that situation, or you could set a boundary depending on how bad it is, right? And if you walk away, what you want to do is wait until he communicates with you, he contacts you, you know, and have some kind of procedure for what you want in order for him to re-enter your life, which might be an apology. It might be him being like, hey, I'm not going to do that again, you know, and being really serious with you. It might be that, you know, it's too much and you're not willing to accept anything like that back into your life. Okay, and then another way of making yourself sacred is by positioning yourself in value. And I talk a lot about this in the Forever Woman program. You can check it out at theforeverwomanformula.com. And so one of the ways that you do this is to get into abundance. It's something that I call abundance, the abundance principle, which basically what it is what abundance is having options, right? Having options and connections so that you're not coming from a space of being needy and clingy and desperate. And so what happens with a lot of the women who come to us initially is that they will be in a space where they're just dating one guy, right? And the guy's not even that serious about her, but she's like totally already like, okay, I'm just dating this one guy. And some women do this on the first contact, right? So if you just start talking to each other, or you just go on one date, they're like, okay, this is the only guy that I'm going to date. And if I date anybody else, it feels like I'm cheating. Well, my suggestion is that you date multiple people at a time. Don't sleep with any of them. Just don't date multiple people at a time so that you're not coming from a space of, I need it to work out with this one woman or this one guy or else, right? If you're coming from the space of it has to work with this one guy, then you're going to be a lot more attached and invested in it working with this one guy. And if he does something that maybe normally would be against your boundaries or against what you actually want, you might walk away. But since this is the only guy, you're like, well, I'm going to have to try to manipulate and force and cajole and try to, push it to work with him, which is a really bad situation to be in. Instead, you want him to be trying to convince you that you are the right woman for him and that you should date him instead of any other guy. And the best way to do that is by putting yourself into a world of abundance. Talk to the women in our community about this. Lots of women have done this after I've suggested it to them, and it's completely changed their lives. It's completely changed their dating, because all of a sudden it's not this one guy. It's which one of these guys is going to step up and start pursuing me and start trying to create the relationship that I want to have with them. And so what you do is you shine the light, right? You shine the light on the type of relationship that you want to have, and then you let him lead you to the promised land, right? You let him lead you to creating that relationship that you want. So that's getting into abundance. The second part of positioning yourself in value is making sure that you take advantage of everything that you possibly can. There was a woman on our last live stream who was talking about how there's more men in the world than there are women. And so it's harder for women because there's more men. Well, there are billions of people on this planet, let me tell you. And there are lots of places that you can go where there are more men than there are women, and men tend to try to do things more. They're trying to step up their game more in order to be with the women, right? And that are around that area. And so my suggestion to you is whatever you need to do to put yourself in the best position possible. So if that's, depending on how serious you are about this, right? If that means that you are in a rural town and you, in order to have abundance and be around guys that don't all know each other, right? you might have to go to a bigger town in order to start dating there, or, doing something where you're putting yourself into a place where men tend to value women more, right? So some cities, right? Like, especially the cities where there are more men than there are women, places like Denver, places like San Diego, we were talking about with one of my friends earlier. I'm sure there's a lot of other places. Just look up the places where there is a lot of competition for women, and you can, go to those kinds of places if you want to. Obviously, it can take a lot if you, work somewhere and you can't up and move or whatever, or whatever. But it's not about this one thing, right? It's about doing it as much as you can. If you can't meet a whole bunch of guys because of whatever situation you're in, in person, you can also do online dating. I know a lot of women. I had a client not too long ago who was like totally against online dating. She's like, I'm not going to date online, and I will never do that. It's horrible. Online dating sucks. And and there are a lot of challenges with online dating for both men and for women. However, it can quickly put you into a place of abundance, and you can quickly start meeting and getting connected with other guys and start feeling like you're less and less attached to making things happen with one guy if you build that abundance with online dating or whatever, right? And so you just want to figure out what are the best ways to position myself so that I can have the highest advantage in my dating life. And just put yourself into that situation, assuming that you're single and not in a relationship already. So the next one is stop judging yourself. And so what you want to do is start learning to fully accept yourself. So this is another piece of being sacred and believing that you're sacred, is stop judging yourself. Learn to fully accept yourself, especially the dark parts. So the parts that you're ashamed of, the parts that you're scared of, the parts that you think are gross or nasty or the worst parts of yourself, accept those. And there's also another side, which is kind of the light side, right? Learning to love the light side of yourself, the parts where, and you might say to yourself, well, why wouldn't I love the light parts of myself, the best parts of myself, the most excellent parts of myself? Well, a lot of people kind of deny those things. I've been going to a lot of Tony Robbins events over the last 8 months or so. And one of the things that I noticed that people do at those events is they will start talking to Tony, and they will say things like, Tony, you did this. You are the one that created all these changes for me in my life, right? And to a certain extent, yeah, he gave them information and he gave them tools and resources to help them do it, but they did it, right? You did it, right? You have those amazing parts of yourself. And the way that you find out which amazing parts of yourself that you're not fully accepting and fully embracing is to look around you and look at people that you really admire and see what qualities they have and see which qualities they have that you admire. And then take those qualities on and say, how do I have those qualities as well? And am I not really fully embracing those qualities? I'm going to be putting a program together about how to really love yourself and find those parts and accept those parts at some point here, hopefully in the near future. So just watch out for that. And so the next part of really believing that you're sacred and thinking that you're sacred is changing the questions that you ask yourself. So the way, whatever you ask yourself, whatever questions you ask yourself, you will start focusing on that thing, right? And whatever you focus on, you start to feel, and whatever you feel, you end up receiving. And so if you change your questions, you can change how you experience your life and how much you love your life and how much you enjoy your life and what you experience in your life. And so here are some questions that you might want to ask yourself. And the main question here is, what if? And so ask yourself, what if I am enough? What if I am deserving? What if I am blessed? What if I am exactly what a great man is looking for? What if I am whole? What if I am beautiful? What if I am worthy? What if I am in control? What if I have the power? What if I am on the right path? What if I am desirable? What if I am worth more? And so make a study of these questions if you want to. I'll throw these questions in the description here later. And, ask yourself at least one of those questions every day and just repeat it over and over again. And just, think about it. Think about, what if you are deserving? What if you're enough? What if you're blessed? What if you're exactly what a great man is looking for? And sometimes when I talk about this idea of being enough, women will talk about, well, I'm not enough for this one guy, right? And we're talking about switching your mindset here from, I'm trying to make everything work with this one guy, to, I am sacred, I am enough. And if this guy doesn't see that, then he's putting himself out of the competition for who is going to end up winning me in the end. And so you want to make sure that you're thinking about it and changing your mindset and not making it about a guy. Instead, making it about the relationship. What if you are enough for that relationship that you want to get in? And if you're enough, then what does that mean? What does that mean for you? And what could that mean for you? What if you're enough? What if you're deserving? What if you really do have the power? What if you really do have more control than you really think that you do? What if you're worth more than what you've been settling for up until this point in your life, with your relationships, with the men that you've been dating, with everything that you've been doing? What if you're worth more?